Today I'm flying Cathay Pacific business class from Milan to Hong Kong, nearly 12 hours across the continents. Over the years, Cathay Pacific has become synonymous with Hong Kong itself, blending Eastern hospitality with world-class service. Cathay is a big name, a founding member of One World Alliance, named World's Best Airline 4 times, and it holds the prestigious SkyTrax 5-star rating, a sign of world's aviation elite. So what is it like to fly nearly 12 hours in Cathay's business class from Europe to Asia? Let's find out together on this Milan to Hong Kong journey. I'm flying from Milan Malpensa, and if you were following my videos, you know that it's by far not my favorite airport. Too basic and too old-fashioned. The main Terminal 1 was opened in late 90s, however it was designed in early 80s, but it took almost 20 years to complete it due to famous Italian bureaucracy. So in practice it's a 50 years old airport. Today's flight is 9,200 kilometers on board of Boeing 777-300 and should be around 12 hours. It's beginning of September, summer holidays are over and the usually crowded Malpensa feels almost quiet. Cathay check-in area is separated into whole 4 different zones, usual business and economy, but also separate zones for first and premium economy, which is quite unusual. Few clicks, bag in and boarding pass out, and I'm ready to go. Cathay crew is huddling next to first class check-in, most likely to check the large suitcases, which would otherwise take too much space if brought on board. Crew never likes to do that, but sometimes they're forced to. Now the first surprise of this flight. I'm puzzled to see Cathay's Boeing 747 taxiing right in front of me. That's very strange, since we should have 777 today, but more importantly, those 747s have been decommissioned by Cathay some 10 years ago. The answer is simple though, it's Cathay Cargo. After a few mixed experiences with European carriers recently, I'm really looking forward to this flight, as Cathay Pacific is a truly iconic airline. Despite its today's status, Cathay had very humble beginnings. It was established in 1946 by 2 pilots and had a single plane, Douglas DC-3 named Betsy, which is today on display in Hong Kong Museum. Cathay stood for medieval European name for China, while Pacific reflected the dream of founders that one day their airline would fly over Pacific. 80 years after, Cathay operates 180 aircraft and carried 23 million passengers last year, still recovering however from COVID. Before that, its passenger traffic was almost 35 million. 90% of the fleet are wide bodies, making Cathay to possess one of the largest long-haul fleets in the world. I'm done with check-in and security and now navigating towards the gate. The only thing that really stands out in Malpensa is the amount of luxury fashion boutiques. After all, Milan is one of the world's fashion capitals, and almost all major Italian names and many others are lined up as you walk through, as if trying to compensate for otherwise very boring airport. But it's not them that I'm after now, rather a lounge. Cathay is using a Gae Aulenti Lounge named after the most famous Italian architect of the 20th century, who was actually working on Malpensa airport project, though not sure that this was something that she was most proud about. The lounge is tagged as premium, but then the other one is exclusive, which seeds some doubts about levels of premiumness I'm about to find. The lounge is right next to the departure gate, and I cannot resist first checking on my today's plane before heading to the lounge itself. It's Boeing 777-300 with the tail number BKPR, a rather fresh 15-year-old aircraft. It was grounded for 3 years during COVID and re-entered service in mid-23 only. I bet this beautiful plane is happy flying again. Cathay has a distinctive green and white livery with an iconic brushwing logo on the tail. It stands both for the bird's wing in flight, but also for brushstroke, referring to Chinese calligraphy and Hong Kong identity, as Cathay is very much proud of its origins. While doing those mini plane spottings at the airports, I'm always trying to find some inspirations for the next flight. And this LATAM Boeing 777 gives me a good hint what I might be aiming at for one of the next flights. But lounge first before all those today's and future flights. It's almost ironical that the escalator takes you to the Emirates lounge, giving you hope that maybe this is where you go, only to have a sign telling that you have not grown up to exclusive lounge and should be happy with whatever Malpensa calls premium. And everything you have seen about Malpensa Airport before tells that its standards for premiumness are not that high. More or less any canteen could be labeled premium here. The lounge is small, aged, and sort of mediocre. Food stations look really poor, some are half empty and no one is hurrying to restock them, some are just don't look appealing. You can't help but think of Doha or Istanbul lounges that make you salivate even if you're not hungry. Coffee machine delivers the final blow. It's old, not cleaned, makes strange sounds like it's about to blow up, and at the end produces one of the worst tasting cappuccinos one could imagine. That machine doesn't look any different from what you would find in second-tier provincial airport in China, which is a shame for airport in a country which is religious about its coffee. All in all, in Milan, which is all about looking good, Malpensa Lounge is anything but about looks. Surprisingly, it has some substance though, as you can pick a plate of what Italians would call antipasti, salami, prosciutto, some cheeses and of course dolci, sweets, and it does taste actually good. If you arrange it nicely on the plate for a good shot, it also looks good. But clearly no one is making any effort in this lounge to impress you, so everything looks shabby, and don't get me started on that awful coffee. In some lounges you want to stay all the way till the final boarding call, but this is not one of them. I bet I will have a better experience on board, so I would rather have an early boarding and heading to the gate. Cathay is aiming to compete at the higher end of the air travel market. With 6 first class and 56 business class suites, premium cabin takes almost half of our Boeing 777, telling clearly about the focus of this route. In business, Cathay has a 1-to-1 reverse herringbone layout using Safran Cirrus 2 seats that offer direct aisle access. This is one of the most commonly used business class seats today. It's a great, tried and tested seat, which however is getting a little old. Cathay has a newer product, Aria Suites, but so far it's only for 777s and only retrofitted on 7 planes, so getting one is like winning in a lottery. Spoiler alert, I managed to try one of those. Check out the review coming up in November. Let's explore further my Safran Cirrus 2 though. At the end, this is what I'm flying today, not Aria. It's a very solid seat, and while aesthetics have aged over time, its functionality and comfort remain top-notch, making it a very strong choice for long-haul flights. Seats are respectable 20 inches 50 centimeters wide and transform into a fully flat 79-inch or 200 centimeters long bed, giving you more than adequate space to stretch out on a long-haul flight, better than many other popular seat models. One thing I really like about Cathay's Cirrus 2 seat is the way the leg space is set up. A lot of reverse herringbone seats push your feet into this really narrow footwell, and after a few hours it honestly feels like your legs are trapped in a tube. But here it's way more open. You can stretch out, move side to side, and just shift around without feeling boxed in. It's a subtle difference, one may say, but for 10 or 12 hours flight, the Cirrus 2 really feels more spacious, natural, and honestly more comfortable than some of those newer tube-style designs. Seats like these typically cost between $50,000 and $80,000 per unit, and it's amazing how many large and small details you need to get right. Upholstery is one of them. Cirrus 2 uses a wool blend fabric designed for durability, comfort and breathability. In the old days it was all about leather, but over time fabric won over, offering a better comfort and practicality, but also giving more cozier, home-like feel for those long-haul flights. Cathay is working with the German specialist producer Rochi to develop fabrics for their seats. The upholstery material feels soft to the touch and is in a very good shape given that those seats are 15 years old. The seat was great throughout the flight, never getting too hot or sticky. Another area where a Cirrus 2 delivers excellently is the headrest. It's fully adjustable and gives a very good head and neck support, especially when in upright sitting position. Those side wings on the headrest offer an extra lateral support. I found them to be very good for a quick nap when you're sitting upright during takeoff or landing. The movable armrest is available at the aisle side of the seat, another small but very thoughtful detail. You can raise it up to rest your arm comfortably while eating or working, or you can push it down into the side of the seat shell, making it easier to move in and out of the seat. The only thing is that it's not very obviously marked, and unless you know it's there, it's easy to miss it. Another less obvious but important feature is the vents at your lower legs level. The suites-like seats create an enclosed area and the airflow is limited at the lower levels, making warm air to build up. Those bottom vents, while looking a bit old-fashioned, help to circulate air around your legs and feet, keeping them from feeling hot, which makes a lot of difference for being comfortable on a long flight. On the entertainment side, Cirrus 2 is featuring a 15-inch touchscreen which can do its job well but feels a bit underwhelming. Colors look little faded and bigger 18-20 inches screens are generally standard these days. Nothing too bad, but the bar for entertainment and displays in particular is raised so high these days that it's hard not to notice that those screens are from the older days. Alright, now the control panel. The seat controls are very simple, which is fine by me. Up and down, lie flat and sit upright, no fancy 20 control settings like you get in today's cars. Then all the ports and plugs bring a real retro vibe. Check this out, it still has an iPod port and those old school AV plugs. I'm trying to think what you were supposed to plug into them and I can't even recall. I wonder if I look a bit harder, could I find somewhere a phone with a rotary dial and a cassette player? Or maybe crew has some DVD players and cables for rental. The remote has the same feeling of late 90s, basic and a bit scruffy by now. Somehow it didn't manage to age that well as the upholstery. On the good side though, it displays the progress of the flight, so you don't need to switch your main display if you want to check the status of the flight. Anyway, let's not get all sarcastic here. All this retro feel is also kind of charming, like the seat is telling you, I have been through some long haul history and remember things. In any case, it gets its job done well, and being a little vintage is fancy again these days. Being a bit older design, this seat doesn't have any separators or sliding doors, but with its cocoon shape, it still offers a very good degree of privacy, which is another must-have for today's business class. The crew serves champagne for a pre-flight drink. I toast to a good flight, and this makes me think about upcoming lunch and reminds that I forgot to check the folding table. It is easy to pull and quite sturdy, but what I'm missing is the ability to move it back and forth. If you are not a slender type, it could be kind of pressing you against the seat. Since I'm in a pre-lunch mood anyway, I might as well check the menus, as the crew already starting to take pre-orders. There are two separate menus for food and drinks, and I have to tell that they look a bit cheap from the outside. To make things worse, I accidentally spilled water on them, so now they look wrinkled and stained. Let's try to disconnect from the form and focus on the content instead. For starter, we can choose from red pepper and chickpea soup and poached prawns. Then 5 choices for the main course: fishbowl noodle soup, oven roasted sea bass, wok fried beef, barbecue chicken breast, and a vegetarian Thai mixed vegetable curry. On top of main course, there is a cheese plate and a selection of desserts, from fruit plate to panna cotta and pavlova to ice creams. For the breakfast, there is again a selection of 5 conceptual breakfast options. Chinese breakfast with congee and noodles, Western, which is a kind of English breakfast, wellness with quinoa, pumpkin seeds and berries, fruit-based light breakfast, and finally an express breakfast, which sounds like a continental. Now let's switch to beverage menu. The champagne comes from Charles Heatsseek, a smaller champagne house which however seems to have a good reputation with sommeliers and wine critics. It's not a pop star of champagne world, but let's say jury's favorite. Their Blonde Millionaire product can be fetching more than €1,000 per bottle price tag, though today we have a much more reasonable Brut Reserve, which usually be around €50 per bottle. The wine selection is quite small, 2 whites and 2 reds, and is evenly split between France and New World. I'm thinking about that beef wok for the lunch, so eyeing a Bordeaux from Chateau Armé de Pez. It's classified as Cru Bourgeois Exceptionnel, making it a very respectable Bordeaux red, which you would not confuse with your everyday bottles. You can find it between 30 and 40 euros usually. The other wines are solid too, and I have to tell this is a much higher end wine list compared with what I recently had on Air France, where most of the bottles were in 10-15 euros range despite long fluffy stories about them. Beyond the wines, Cathay is offering a choice of cocktails, which sounds good, but I'm kind of skeptical about on-board mixed drinks, and a decent selection of liquors: Campari, Bombay Sapphire, Bacardi, Absolute Hennessy, all solid, and it's good that Cathay doesn't play with value options. It's only Johnny Walker and Jack Daniels, which seems to be questionable choices here. And of course there is a good tea selection, after all it's a Hong Kong airline. Again, there are options of Western and Asian tea varieties, and a signature Hong Kong milk tea. I'm done with the menus and more or less done with exploring this seat, so now it's a good time to explore the amenities. First of all, I have that grey box sitting at the footwell. Everyone who flew business can guess that this is a bedding set. Inside it has a full-size proper duvet, not a usual fleece blanket that you can find on many flights. It was soft and nice, but maybe just a little too thick and warm. More importantly, it also had a mattress pad which makes the seat much more comfortable for the sleep. It's not that difficult to fix it yourself, but flight attendants are happy to help to set it up whenever you are ready to sleep. A personal storage compartment is the usual treasure chest of amenities. Let's check it out. As one may expect, we find headphones, amenities kit, and the bottle of water. Cathay provides unbranded noise-cancelling headphones which look and feel okay, but as any OEM product, it's hardly a top of the class. But it's not bad. It doesn't have that plasticky feeling and sound is quite decent. Unlike newer cabins, there is no Bluetooth functionality, so you can't connect your own pair. Apparently you can plug your Bluetooth dongle and then connect, but this is too much of a hassle. It's easier to live with the standard set. The Cathay amenity kit comes from Bamford, a name that would not ring a bell for many. It's a very niche British luxury wellness brand. Bamford is emphasizing natural ingredients and sustainable practices, so it's really a good fit for Cathay, which positions itself as eco-conscious airline. It was established in 2004 by Carol Bamford, and the story sounds a bit like a fairy tale. A female founder creating a small independent brand, and you keep wondering how they can compete with the big corporate players. But there is a small detail. The founder is the wife of an owner and chairman of JCB, a major British industrial equipment manufacturer with a massive $9 billion turnover. With a backing like that, for sure she can afford an expensive hobby of developing her own niche brand. In any case, that's a side story which doesn't make Bamford any more or less good. The kit comes in a stylish case which looks more like a purse and actually has few interesting products. There is a mouthwash from Waken, another niche eco-focused British brand, then a tube of Bamford Multi-Balm, a versatile product to hydrate high or irritated skin from lips to elbows. Here we've got Botanic Pillow Mist, a sleep aid with a mix of lavender, bergamot, marjoram and few other herbs that help you to relax and have a better sleep. That's smart to have this on board. I once used this kind of spray in JW Marriott and had a great sleep despite the jet lag, so definitely going to try it out tonight. Also got this tube of Bamford Cooling Gel, an interesting product too. Not only it moisturizes but provides a cooling and soothing effect, which comes especially handy when your body feels warm, which again makes a lot of sense on a long flight. There is also a small dental kit with eco-friendly wood toothbrush and eco toothpaste, again from Waken. There are of course earplugs and eye mask. All in all, this looks and feels very much in line with Cathay image, stylish and premium and with a touch of sustainability. It's those little things that Cathay does that are actually interesting, like this usual water bottle. It looks like any other, but it's actually San Benedetto Eco Green, which uses 30% recyclable plastics and offsetting carbon emissions with purchase of carbon credits. There is no mistake that unlike many other, Cathay really walks its talk on sustainability. And the last piece of amenities that Cathay is treating us with is this pair of very decent slippers, which have a dedicated pocket right next to those vintage air vents. It's been a long time since the boarding. By now we should be in the air and it feels like there is some problem, but no any announcement yet. I might as well check the entertainment system, which as I mentioned is showing some age. The touch screen is a bit small and could be a bit more responsive. The video content is actually very good, but that screen irresponsiveness is really irritating. You're trying to swipe, it doesn't work, then it turns on what you don't want to turn on, and so on. But as long as you can have patience to navigate the system, there seems to be tons of good content to watch. Another thing that I always use on the flight are the in-flight maps or the navigation system. Here things seem to be better. Cathay is using a newer flight path 3D system, which is fairly intuitive and easy to navigate. But it also reminds me that all 11 hours of flight are still ahead of us. I'm playing with the system and when checking outside camera views, I'm picking something interesting. There seems to be some kind of concilium of technicians next to our nose landing gear, or front wheels if I skip the airline jargon. This doesn't look good and most likely is the reason why we're still on the ground. 5 minutes later, the pilot makes an announcement that we have a problem and it may take another hour to fix it. It's disappointing, but there is nothing you can do, so my soap opera binge-watching session will start today still on the ground. Meanwhile, to keep us somehow entertained during the wait, the crew brings the appetizer early, which is some sort of slice of pastrami with mushrooms. I wish they have another round of pre-flight drinks and ask, but no luck. We spent more or less another hour and a half on the ground, but finally the problem is fixed and we start moving. To a bit of my disappointment, the window is completely scratched, almost as if it was sandblasted or some Chinese dragons were bickering it from the outside during the flights. Everything outside is blurred and not that many chances for good shots, but I'm having good fun with those outside cameras as it gives a cool view from nose of the plane. Cathay safety video takes a higher place in my internal competition. It's decently creative and unmistakably linked to Hong Kong, reinforcing how much Cathay is proud of its origins, not like very plain functional videos on American carriers. We are finally taking off with more than 2 hours of delays, which will ultimately make me miss my connecting flight. Jumping ahead, this makes me able to claim €600 compensation from Cathay for this flight. Surprisingly, it is still not very well known even to those who fly a lot that EU law requires since 2004 all airlines flying to EU to pay compensation for longer than 3-hour delays. It can range from €250 to €600 depending on the distance. To Cathay credit, they only softly resisted and after a few emails back and forth with customer service team, I got my €600. It's not great to have delay, but I was not much in a hurry that day and €600 is always €600. We haven't even reached the cruising altitude, but I can see the crew starts moving around, preparing for food service. They don't need a reminder that everyone is tired from waiting for 2 hours on the ground. And here we go, my starter arrives, so let's see if Cathay would be able to surprise. The starter may look simple from the first glance, but one should make no mistake. It's really quite an exquisite dish. I get poached prawns with spiced horseradish tomato sauce, baby jam lettuce, avocado, all sprinkled with sieved hard-boiled egg. It's accompanied by toasted baguette slices and a butter. Those poached prawns are usually cooked in hot water just below the boiling point to avoid toughness and rubbery structure that you can get from overcooked prawns. It's interesting to observe how Cathay tries to blend East and West in everything they do, including food. While prawns are as Asian as it gets, then the cooking and presentation is very much European, perfectly blending the two of the worlds. And the cooking is just perfect, and my shrimps are delicious, soft and juicy, exactly the way it should be. After a disappointing experience with food overall and shrimps in particular on Air France a few months ago, Cathay shrimps are like a breath of fresh air and a revival of hope for airline food. For the main course, I decide to go all the way Asian. It's wok fried beef tenderloin with Chinese tomato sauce, bell peppers, and broccoli. Unlike European meals, Chinese dishes are rarely a single dish, so I get also steamed jasmine rice on the side, as well as pork soup with yam, carrots, and corn. It looks like a classical Hong Kong-style Cantonese stir-fry, though the tomato sauce is a bit of modern fusion element. To be in perfect sync with Cathay East-West style, I add a glass of that Bordeaux that I highlighted earlier. It's fruity, full-bodied wine with a firm tannin structure, and it pairs perfectly with the tenderloin. The only grievance is that Cathay doesn't serve any proper wine glasses. In Europe you would start with the soup first, but in Asia it usually goes last, so I first need to attend my beef. Cathay is serving both forks and chopsticks, and I go for chopsticks somehow to get the full experience the way it should be. The meat is tender and juicy with a bit of sweetness from the sauce, and broccoli is crisp. All is good and no space for complaint. And then I finish it with a rich and creamy soup, which puts a perfect ending for this meal. Well, actually not the ending, but rather the end of the main part. I completely forgot that there is still a cheese plate and desserts coming. I hesitate for a moment when offered by flight attendant, but when I see how it looks, I cannot resist anymore. Cheese plate comes with a combo of cheddar, roquefort, and brie, crackers, grapes, and queen's paste, a kind of marmalade. Looks very French, tastes great, and it calls for another glass of Bordeaux. I also have to mention that there is a very high attention of Cathay to the presentation. Not only food tastes great, but it's perfectly arranged and looks amazing. On top of cheese plate, I also get a fruit platter as I didn't feel like going for sweets. Too much and I'm too full. Great food and big kudos to Cathay, both for the quality as well as for perfect blending of different cuisines. It's close to 4 p.m. Central European Time, which is 10 in the evening in Hong Kong, so I have 2 more hours for movies and then should try to get some sleep to start switching to China time zone. In about an hour, the crew closes all the window shades, kind of suggesting to passengers that they better respect destination time. Good for me, as I was planning to sleep in any case. I use my botanical mist to spray the pillow and ready to doze off. Once again, I have to credit this older seat for the arrangement of the footwell. There is tons of space and it feels very comfortable and not confined like in newer models. I don't know if this was the magical sleep aid or 2 glasses of wine, but I fell asleep almost immediately, forgetting to pre-order breakfast, and slept like a baby almost till arrival. So when I wake up, there is only the option of express breakfast available. This, however, works perfectly with me, as anything bigger and heavier, like an omelette, would be too much. I get a bowl of Birker muesli, croissant and another pastry, butter, fruits, a glass of orange juice and a cup of black tea. Not sure why they call it express, as it's actually a full-size breakfast. I don't think anyone would need anything larger on the flight. If only one could have a cup of good cappuccino with that. That's one of the things that they still can get right on the plane. While on the surface this is a long flight, the reality of flying business means that it's a bit of movies, lunch, good night's sleep, breakfast, and more or less you're there. Interestingly, after Russian invasion to Ukraine, Cathay started avoiding flying through Russian airspace, while the rest of mainland China Airlines keep doing it. Our route went over Balkans, Black Sea, Caucasus and Central Asia, and then China itself. Whether they do it for political reasons or for safety or both, I feel better that we don't fly over Russia that clearly is mad these days, and respect to Cathay for making this choice. The last window shades are open and we are starting our descent. The approach to Hong Kong is beautiful, but again I'm handicapped by my scratched and spotted windows. Not much for the views, but it's a good time to sum up my flight experience. Does Cathay lives up to its 5-star SkyTrax status? I might have few comments here and there, but I would rather say yes than no. Their Safran Cirrus 2 seats might be showing some signs of aging, but they are still a very solid choice. They were definitely top of the range 15 years ago when Cathay started using them. Now they lack a bit of privacy and there are bigger and better screens in the newer models. But they are still very good and surprisingly offer more space than some of the newer models. I had a great night's sleep helped by the bedding set of Cathay. Amenities are good and well thought of, and food was amazing. This is something that is really standing out with Cathay. On top of that, very attentive and friendly crew, smiling and with perfect English. Both are very rare to find on mainland China airlines, with the only exception of Hainan, another 5-star airline. You can actually watch my report about a flight I took earlier this year. All in all, I'm very happy with my flight, and I would happily give Cathay 4 plus out of 5 for this flight. The only thing that I could expect to be a little bit better is to have that seat upgraded to a modern suite with better screen and with a privacy door. Great experience, and I can fully recommend Cathay.